If there was a tug of war between for Schneider between the two clubs, who do you think he would go to?
I don't think
would it be the size of the club and United's history, or would it be the money?
I think it depends. I'm going to sit on the fence. I think it does depend on the mentality of the player, because I mean, City have
or his wife.
City have made signings over the last 3 years since the Abu Dhabi owners have been in place, which have, you know, they have won players from other clubs. I mean, they got Robinho from. I mean, that was more on the size of the fee from Chelsea. When all summer we thought that was where he was going to go, didn't we?
But then they tried the same with Berbatov.
They did, and it didn't work. Yeah. So I actually think that very subtly things are changing, and players and players make different, because they don't you know, young players from across Europe, across the world, don't bring the same kind of preconceptions to the table that maybe we have as sort of, you know, English football fans and journalists. So I actually think that is changing, and it's not quite so clear cut. And that's also the job of the executives at City, to make that sell. That's where they earn their money, because you are up. Obviously they've got an incredible sort of benefits that they can give players, but they have to be able to sell them the club, and that's not easy when you're up against United, who bring all that tradition and all that success.
Yeah, I mean the question mark around Carlos Tevez as well. I mean, that he was asked about that, and Mancini was positive, as he said in the Sunday newspaper, that he will stay. But you never know with Tevez, do you?
Oh, Tevez is a mess that's going to get messier. I mean, he is a player that moves on. You know, that's how he operates in his career. He's done it 2 or 3 times in a short period already, and you know, I think he would move again if he could. He doesn't particularly get on with Mancini. There's a bit of pressure from the people around him to maybe look for the next payday. So I think he would go, but City would want £50 million for him, and Tevez is on 200 grand a week. So the list of clubs that could afford Carlos Tevez is extremely small.
Yeah.
There could be an awkward situation where he's trying to engineer an exit, and City are perhaps even comfortable with him doing so if he can get somewhere, but they might not know whether he'll be able to leave to go somewhere or not, and that gives them a problem with their planning. But you know, he's just going to create, I think, problems over the summer for them. I think.
I don't really understand it, and I absolutely agree with you, Jonathan. He's a player that moves on. It seems to be a pattern, but it doesn't seem that there's really a space for him at Madrid or Barcelona. No. So they're talking about Italy, but why? I've just said if I was Schneider, I'd probably go to United, but I wouldn't leave Manchester City to go to Italy. Not at the moment. I think Italy is in a dip at the moment, and those clubs really aren't the.
He's too young to play in Italy. He's in his 20s, isn't he?
Well, yeah, exactly. I just think it was strange. It was as a piece of theatre yesterday. It was very strange watching him. You know, there he is. He's the captain lifting the cup. He's wearing the lid of the cup on his head as he's walking out onto the pitch, and yet he's thinking of going. I find that whole thing.
There's a kind of footballer that thinks there's always a better place somewhere.
Yeah.
There's this kind of promised land where everything's fine. They'll get on with the owner, and the sun will shine every day, and training will be great, and they'll like all their teammates. And
but life's not like that.
Life's not like that. You can go on searching forever.
Yeah, the sun does shine in Manchester. Jonathan and I live in North West. It does.
But City are a much better player with Tevez. You know, but without him, they don't look the same side.
They certainly this season he's been important, but it's not impossible to imagine a time when you know, if Dzeko becomes the player that they hope he will be, and admittedly that looks a long way off at the moment. It's not impossible to imagine them without him. It's a lot harder to imagine United without Wayne Rooney.
Yes, no, I appreciate that.
Yesterday as well was a big stage in Balotelli's development, and you know, he looks like a central striker when he finally settles in a position. He's only 20, so if there's more to come from him, perhaps Tevez going wouldn't be so bad for City.
Yeah, they're linked with Baines this morning, Leighton Baines. And they've been linked with him before, and also the Chilean striker Alexis Sanchez. They're linked with a 25 million bid there.
Well, I mean, looking at Kolarov's performance yesterday, you can see why they're looking at a new left back. Baines is quite in demand. You know, I think Arsenal like him. Liverpool have even looked at him. You know, he's a very good player, but he's quite a quiet lad who's got his roots on Merseyside. I think it's going to be hard to prise him away from there. And Sanchez is one that Mancini's been looking at through his Italian connections for quite a long time. Winger, he's quite small, I think, but he's got a great reputation from what he's done in Serie A. But it goes back to what the boys have been saying. There might be a bit of a tension with Mancini wanting to invest, and then the hierarchy at the club saying you can't because of the financial fair play.
And you got and also got to get rid of some as well. I would think as well. But where do you sit, Matt, with the fact that the cup final was sandwiched between Premier League matches on the same day? I mean, you had United winning the title, which we're going to come to, of course, but. Did it feel uncomfortable for you? Did it deflate it or not?
It did. It was slightly strange in that it was slightly strange being in the press room at Wembley yesterday, because obviously the TV was on United and celebrations, and then suddenly obviously there's this sort of central control. Somebody's got this remote control somewhere. We never see them, and the TV flicked over, and it was 15 minutes ago. Right, now we'll focus on the FA Cup final. So yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was poor planning, and the fact that David Bernstein earlier this week said it could happen again next season.
Well, it will happen again, yeah, definitely.
I find very depressing, really, because a cup final day is cup final day, and I think it should be protected.
Does the competition still retain that magic for you or not?
I think it does, yeah. I do, yeah. I really do. I know. I absolutely take. I totally agree with Sam. If you're running a football club, and you want to be successful and you want to be financially successful, then the Champions League is the promised land. It's a terrible cliche, but it is. But no, I absolutely do. I love the FA Cup, and I actually thought, once that had gone, and I felt we all forgot about United very quickly.
Yeah.
And the moment we all walked out, having watched United's game, and walked out and sat in the press box, and the Stoke fans and the City fans, and it was fantastic. I thought it wasn't a great game of football, but it was a great occasion, and I still felt that romance, that history. I still. You mentioned
the Stoke fans. The Stoke fans were brilliant at the end, because had that been a big club, okay, that's no just real respect to Stoke. The fans disappear if they've lost. That end of Wembley is normally empty, but they stayed and they watched the ceremonies and they applauded the teams as they went round, and that was a novelty to them because it was a special day for them.
I think the best you could say about them was that if their team had won the cup, they wouldn't have celebrated anymore. It was incredible. I've never seen a losing team get that kind of reception, and the City fans as well. I mean, that was such an outpouring of emotion you saw from them. I mean, and they were all coming to the press box afterwards and haranguing us and put that in your paper, we're back. But that's great, that for them the release was yesterday. It wasn't qualifying for the Champions League, albeit, as we've said, that may be more important financially and all that sort of stuff. But what fans live for is days like yesterday's day, and they'll remember that one.